Howdy, paper engineers in training. This is tutorial number 6. Boy, I hope I get this right. But anyway, what I'm getting ready to do right here is I had this piece in here. I had to take it out when I put this deck in because it just wasn't lining up right. Now, I've already put the bumper on here, but it has to be painted. I can't do anything else. Now, this piece, I cut it down and got it to fit in here just perfect. And so now what we're going to do is we're going to attach it for hopefully the last time I've had to do this. I've done it. This is like my 3rd time I've put this piece on and taken it off. And so anyway, there it is. Now what you have to do is you have to make sure that it lines up with this chassis piece right. Because once it dries into place and you're done with it, you can't line things back up. It's just one of those deals where it becomes very difficult to do. Not impossible, of course, but just very difficult. And so now what I'm doing is I'm making sure the glue moves all the way across this tail section. And now up front here, this is also the upper section of this. And I don't remember. I better look at this one. Oh, it's silver. Okay, so before I can put these on, I actually have to do some paint work. And so you're going to get a chance to see what I paint with. Not everything is done with a brush. All right, so this is the black paint. And that is not good. Pop that. Okay, so this is my dental tool. And what it does is it paints very, very well when you want a nice, clean, flat surface. Okay, now that's done. And so we wipe this off because these are important to keep clean, although not much will stick to them. It's stainless steel. Now, these also work very handy for other sources of paint work. Now I have to paint the grill of this. And so now we use the fine line brush right here. And I use the paint out of the lid as much as possible because you can see what you're doing, you can see the amount of paint you're getting on your brush, etc. And so anyway, that is now done. And see, you don't use much paint either. And something I like to do, just kind of a bugaboo of mine, is always keep these lids clean because this junk falls into your paint and then you get bumps in your paint that you got to try and sand out. It just becomes a pain in the backside to do. So now that's clean. We can put that back on there. That's done. Clean brush is very important. I get my brushes whenever I can at garage sales for very cheap, but still, it's money that you spend to get something. There's no point in ruining them. So always keep your tools clean. Get that out of the way because that won't do good. Now, you saw me glue this on just recently right here. Now what I have to do is I believe I have to start adding these pieces in here. I've got to do this piece. I've got to bridge up across here so when I put the deck in, which is the deck that all this stuff mounts on. Yeah. Anyway, that has to be done. Where's my ruler at? Okay, there it is. Very handy ruler, I tell you what. Okay, now that is 1 1/8 inches. So we go over here, and this is how long this is. 1 1/8 inches. And I think that's longer than it needs to be. But anyway, we just take this. This steel rule is a 1/2 inch wide, which is plenty wide for what I want to do here. Okay, so there's that, and there's that. Now what I have is I have got to take a measurement right across here. Okay, so this is the edge of this ceiling section, and there. So now what we want to do, oh, that's noisy, is cut these about like this. Yeah. And now we see if this will go in. It probably will not, because I made it bigger than what it needed to be. Okay, so now I need to drop it down a little bit because it's too tall. So we cut that off there, stick this back in here, and see where it goes. That is very nice fit. Very nice fit. That'll go under there. Anyway, that sits in there just like that. Okay, so do we want that to go down in there any further? Yeah, just squish those a little tiny bit. All right, now I believe this is ready to go. Now this is test fit number 2, because you have to test your parts to see if they're going to go in there. Won't go in that way, so let's try going in this way. Okay, it did, but it's hanging up right there. That's okay. That all moves down that direction. That looks pretty good. Only difference is I need to drop down there. That means I need a piece this wide right here. And now we cut this here. See, 'cause what goes on is when you're custom building stuff, you have variances. All right, it's not custom molded, so you're going to have variances in stuff that you're building. So what I just did is I just put a piece of paper in there along the bottom of that. Okay, so that's going to push this, instead of this bottom being tipped in like that, it's going to push it out like this. And the reason that's going on is because it needed to. As it turned out, the bottom is kicked in some on the build process. And so now what I do is I'm going in here like so, and I'm putting that in there, and it goes up against this bottom piece. And so now that becomes one solid chunk of paper, basically, glued together and set. Once that dries, it's going to be an extremely strong bond. And because of the way you build things, that's going to hold up for a lot of years. Okay, we got that there. Now, these pieces, okay, I had to do that first. Now I have to put in, I think that's going to be okay. Let's see, what is that? I think that's going to be okay. All right, now we want to square this end up and put this in here like so. That's where it's got to be cut, just like this. Now we check this in here to see how it fits. A little bit tight, and it's too tall. Oh boy. Okay, and that's something you have to pay attention to. This is a little too tall. I can't use this piece. And The reason being, because you're making micro machines, you have to have your tolerances very close. That was 1/8 of an inch. It needs to be 3/16 of an inch. Okay, so we go over here, and very little waste when you're talking 3/16 of an inch versus 1/8 of an inch. Okay, and so the nice thing is too, when these little pieces don't get used and they go in the garbage, they break down in the landfills really quickly because they're little tiny pieces of paper. And so they don't pollute for as long as the big old chunks of stuff do. But anyway, now I've got this. And this is the piece that I want. And so we're just going to measure it right there, because that is the dimensions of what I need. Save that. Check this out. Now we do a test fit number 2. Too long. Trim off just a tiny bit. 1/32 of an inch is all I took off of that. Now it fits in here. Okay, you can see how this is. Well, I'm going to put 1, 2, 3 of these in there, because that is what the deck is going to be sitting on, and that's where your strength has to be. So that if you pick it up back here, it doesn't collapse. All right, there's 2 pieces. Now I should probably make more of these, because I'm making 5 DeLoreans. This is number 2. So I should make these fit. And the thing is, I don't need to cut them all ahead of time, because when I get to the number 3 DeLorean, it may be just a little bit different size. This deck might be a little bit lower. And if that's the case, shoot, you can't have made too many pieces ahead of time, because if you do, you're just going to be throwing them all out. It's not a bad thing, but it is time consuming. And with less time to have a hobby these days, it's much nicer to be able to work a little bit ahead of yourself, but not so much that you have to throw things away. Now, that is 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, got 4 pieces there, which means I can go 1, 2, 3, 4. And so that's what I'm going to do. Right? Want to make sure this fits right. It does. So now what we do is we add the glue to this and put this in place. All right, test fit this one too. That one was okay. All right. Yep, all right. Okay. Now, as you can see, that gives you your structure. So when I get ready to build the deck for this back here, I just put the deck in and cross it over. Now, if you want extra strength, you can cross piece in here like this as well. Doesn't need it on this small of a piece. Now we look at this section right up here, and this has to go in there like that. Sorry about taking that off of camera like that, you guys. I don't know if you could see it, probably could not. But anyway, this has to all line up correctly because it's the grill. And that's the first thing you see when you're looking at the DeLorean build, is you look at the grill. And so that means I need to make sure this stays on just right. It has to be straight and it has to be lined up correctly. That's not too bad right there. And there is the grill set in place. Oh man, and you can see how easy it is to move something. Yeah. Okay. No, I don't mess with it now. No, we just leave it alone. Because it's the best I can be right there. And that is more parts of the DeLorean, number 6. Take care, Paper Army. See you soon.